They sold my car for love, just not mine. My name is Madison Cole. I'm 28 years old and I fix cars for a living. Funny, right? I spend my days repairing other people's engines, but I couldn't save my own from being sold by my parents. It happened on a humid Saturday morning. I walked into the garage and my parking spot was empty, gone. My silver Honda Civic, the one I bought after 3 years of saving and skipping every luxury, vanished. Mom just sipped her coffee and said, "It's for your brother's honeymoon, honey. You'll understand one day." Dad nodded like it was reasonable. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, holding my keys to nothing, while my brother Blake sent a text. "Thanks, sis. You're really making our trip to Maui possible." That's when I decided fine. Let them drive off into paradise. But when they came back, when they needed me again, I'd make sure they remembered exactly who they sold out. They took my car for a honeymoon, but the road they left me on was leading somewhere they didn't expect. You never forget the sound of an empty driveway. It's not silence. It's betrayal echoing off concrete. That morning I stood frozen, keys in hand, staring at the oil stain where my car used to be. My silver Honda Civic, 3 years of saving, overtime shifts, skipped weekend, gone. Inside, the smell of toast and coffee filled the kitchen. My mother, Evelyn, sat by the counter, scrolling her phone like it was any other morning. "Oh, Madison," she said without looking up. "We sold it. Blake needed help with his honeymoon. You'll understand one day when you have a husband." My dad, Mark, folded his newspaper neatly. "Family comes first," he said flatly, not meeting my eyes. Family. Right. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand how they could just take the one thing that was mine. Instead, I just nodded, because when your parents decide your boundaries are optional, silence is your only armor. Blake texted me before I made it to the door. "Thanks, sis. You're making Maui happen." I walked 5 miles to work that morning. Every step was a reminder, not of distance but of disrespect. By the time I reached the repair shop, sweat clung to my uniform. My coworkers stopped mid-conversation when I walked in. "Did you really sell your car for your brother's honeymoon?" One asked, half impressed, half amused. "That's sweet?" "Sweet, sure. Let's call humiliation sweet." I didn't respond. I just slipped on my gloves and started changing a brake rotor, letting the metal scream for me instead. Grease under my nails, ache in my back. I tried to lose myself in the work, but the noise in my head was louder than any wrench. Tyler, the new mechanic, leaned against the garage doorway. "Heard about your car," he said quietly. "That's not love, Madison. That's leverage." Something in his tone made me stop. Not pity, recognition. Like he'd seen this kind of control before, too. I forced a half smile. "Yeah, well, leverage doesn't get you to work on time." That night, I couldn't sleep. Out of habit, I opened my laptop and started scrolling through used car listings. Then I froze. My breath caught. There it was. My Civic, same dent near the headlight, same cracked sticker on the bumper. Listed at a dealership 2 towns over for $14,900. I clicked the invoice photo. My father's name was right there on the seller line. Mark Cole. The man who preached family unity had signed away my freedom for a vacation photo album. That's when I realized they hadn't just sold my car. They'd sold the last piece of respect I had for them. Apologies taste fake when served with wine. Blake's pre-honeymoon dinner was supposed to be family time, but everyone knew it was a celebration of how much I'd lost. I showed up late, walking in just as the waiter poured champagne into crystal glasses that caught the light like tiny lies. Mom beamed when she saw me. "You made it," she said, her voice too cheerful to be real. Dad raised his glass halfway, pretending not to notice the tension stretching between us like a wire about to snap. Across the table, Blake grinned, arm around Lena, his fiancée, all glitter and entitlement. She flashed a set of designer luggage stacked beside her chair. Gold zippers, embossed initials, the kind of bags that said I'm rich enough to waste money on matching leather. "Guess what?" she said, brushing her hair back so the diamond ring sparkled. "We splurged on a his and hers luggage set. You only get one honeymoon, right?" I didn't smile. "Nice," I said. "Glad my car helped make it happen." The table went silent for a beat. Mom cleared her throat, eyes flicking toward Dad like they'd rehearsed this. "Madison, honey, that money isn't gone. It's temporary. Once they're back, we'll figure something out." "Temporary," I repeated, leaning forward. "You sold my car. My name's on the title. That's not temporary, that's theft. Dad set down his fork, sighing like I was the one being unreasonable. You'll get another car. You don't need it right now. You live 5 miles from work. My laugh came out sharp. Yeah, I know. I walk it every day, in case you forgot because you drove here. Lena chimed in, swirling her wine. You're being dramatic. Family helps family. Besides, it's not like you were using it for anything important. That one hit harder than I expected. Not because it was true, but because she said it like she believed it. Mom's tone shifted, that clipped edge of superiority she saved for lesser conversations. You're not married, Madison. You don't have kids. You don't need a car. Blake and Lena do. My jaw clenched. So independence is only valuable if it wears a ring. Blake raised his glass, smirking. Relax, sis. You'll get it back. He leaned back in his chair, that smug confidence dripping from every word. Unless, he added with a grin, we decide to extend the trip. The table laughed. Even my parents smiled politely. I just stared at him. That same calm silence I'd learned to weaponize. Because in that moment, I decided if they thought this was a joke, I'd make sure they remembered the punchline. If you can rebuild engines, you can rebuild pride. That's what I told myself as I wiped grease off my hands and stared at the half-dismantled sedan in front of me. The garage was quiet except for the hum of a fan and Tyler's voice explaining something about VIN plates. See this? He said, pointing to a small metal strip on the frame. If someone's trying to hide a sale or switch ownership, they'll mess with the VIN. It's the car's fingerprint. I leaned closer. So if the dealership that bought it sells it, I can trace it. He nodded, giving me that look again, half admiration, half warning. You're tougher than they think. But this road you're on, it's not gonna be pretty. I gave him a thin smile. Neither was walking 5 miles to work. We stayed late, cross-checking records through his shop's account. When the dealer listing popped up, my chest tightened. My Civic had already been resolved 2 days after the purchase. Cash buyer, Tyler said, scrolling down. Registered in Hawaii. Hawaii. My breath caught. Blake's honeymoon destination. It wasn't just about money anymore. They hadn't just sold my car. They'd taken it with them. Tyler looked up, reading my face. You okay? I laughed once, bitter and small. I guess I just funded their tropical getaway and gave them the ride. He didn't say anything, just grabbed his rag, wiped his hands, and walked to the back of the shop. When he came back, he tossed me a set of keys, old, rusted, attached to a tag that said Lot 17. It's not pretty, he said, but it runs. Got an old pickup I've been fixing up. Cheap. You can take it off my hands. I blinked. Tyler, I can't. You can, he interrupted. Because this isn't about a car anymore. It's about your comeback. We worked together that night, side by side, tightening bolts, replacing spark plugs and breathing life back into something everyone else had given up on. When the engine finally roared to life, I smiled for the first time in days. Feels like revenge, I said. Tyler grinned. Nah, feels like momentum. Later that night, lying in bed, I scrolled through social media. The kind of self-punishment you can't stop doing even when it hurts. There it was, a post from Lena. Her caption read, First morning in Maui. Blessed life. Just married. New wheels. And behind her, under the palm trees, gleaming in the sun, my silver Honda Civic. The car, they said, was temporary. Now parked in paradise, smiling back at me through her filtered lie. It's strange seeing your stolen car in paradise. The ocean glimmered on Lena's feed like everything I'd worked for had been repainted in palm trees and privilege. My silver Civic gleamed in the background, a shiny accessory to their blessed life. I stared at the photo for a long time before creating a new account. Aloha Brides 2024. Profile picture, a stock photo of a sunset. Bio, newlywed inspo only. I sent Lena a DM, OMG. Love your car. Did you rent it locally? It took her less than a minute to respond. Nope, it's a family car. My husband's sister helped with it. Loyalty pays off. Then she sent a short video, Blake behind the wheel, his hand hanging out the window, grinning like he'd just conquered the world. He looked straight into the camera and said, Thanks to family loyalty, baby. Loyalty. I almost laughed. Funny how betrayal always dresses itself in pretty words. I forwarded the clip to Tyler with a message. Need help proving ownership. They took my car to Maui. He called immediately. Wait, did you say your car? Yeah, I said, pacing the garage. It's still registered in my name. I never signed the transfer form. There was silence on the line, then his voice turned sharp. Madison, that's bad. Really bad. If anything happens, tickets, accidents, insurance claims, it all falls on you. Legally. The thought hit me like a wrench to the chest. You're saying I could get blamed for whatever they do? Exactly. You're still the registered owner, and Hawaii is strict on out-of-state vehicles. I pulled up the DMV site, my hands shaking. He was right. The records still listed Madison Cole, primary owner. No transfers, no pending paperwork. I wanted to scream. My parents hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. They'd left me exposed. One mistake, one reckless move from Blake, and I'd be the one paying for it. Tyler said softly, "You've got to fix this before it turns into something worse." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Worse, I think we already hit that. That night I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed every few minutes with new notifications, likes, comments, and travel updates. I scrolled past their smiles until the anger turned into nausea. Then a new alert popped up. Not from Instagram, from a local news app. Breaking, rental car crash in Maui, 2 injured. The headline blurred as my eyes focused on the smaller text below. Vehicle, silver Honda Civic. Registered owner, Madison Cole. My hand went cold around the phone. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was criminal, and I was about to take the fall for it. It wasn't my accident, but it was my responsibility. The call came just after sunrise, when the sky was still half asleep. I almost didn't answer, thinking it was another spam number. Ms. Madison Cole? The voice was calm, professional. This is Officer Kalani from the Maui Police Department. Are you the registered owner of a 2017 silver Honda Civic, plate number 3HZ? My throat tightened. Yes, why? There's been an incident involving that vehicle. 2 individuals were taken to the hospital. We just need to verify ownership and insurance details. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. The image of Lena's post, the car by the beach, the hashtag #JustMary, flashed in my mind. Yes, I'm the owner, I stammered. But it's not supposed to be there. My family took it without permission. He paused. I understand. But according to our report, you're still the listed owner and responsible for any liabilities tied to the vehicle. I suggest contacting your insurer immediately. The line went dead before I could ask anything else. I called the insurance company next. The woman on the other end spoke in that polite, robotic tone that makes bad news sound routine. Ms. Cole, we've been notified of 2 unpaid fines linked to your vehicle, speeding and reckless operation. Both occurred in Hawaii. Since you haven't updated ownership, those charges fall to you. My stomach dropped. I drove straight to my parents' house, the old pickup rattling the whole way. Mom opened the door like nothing was wrong, holding her coffee mug like it was armor. Mom, did you know my car's been in an accident? She blinked, unbothered. Relax, Madison. It's just a paperwork thing. The insurance will handle it. I stared at her, speechless. Paperwork thing? They used my registration. My name is still on the title. Dad walked in, tying his robe, trying to act like this was a casual chat. We took care of the transfer. You must have missed the notice. No, I said slowly. You forged it. You used that copy of my signature from when I bought the car. Didn't you? He looked away. That was my answer. Do you have any idea what you've done? I could be sued, arrested. Mom sighed. You're being dramatic again. It's family. Nobody's pressing charges. I turned and walked out, pulse pounding so loud it drowned everything else. Back at the garage, Tyler was already waiting. When I told him everything, he just shook his head. You need to lawyer up, Mads. This isn't a family issue anymore. It's fraud. I nodded, tears burning behind my eyes. They made me the criminal. My phone buzzed. A new voicemail. I hit play. Dad's voice filled the air, low and cold. Don't make this harder than it already is. Some families send postcards. Mine sent debt collectors. The envelope was thin, official, and cold to the touch. The kind that doesn't bring good news. Just numbers designed to crush you quietly. Notice of repossession. Final warning. I read it twice, then a third time, hoping the words might change. It wasn't even addressed to Blake or my parents, just me, Madison Cole. According to the letter, I owed over $18,000 for outstanding auto financing and accrued interest. My car, the one they sold, had been resold again. The dealership claimed I'd defaulted. I drove straight there, my heart thudding against the steering wheel. The manager looked up from his computer as I stormed in. "Can I help you?" "Oh, you already did," I said, pulling the letter from my bag. "You helped sell my car, twice. Care to explain how that happened when I never signed a release?" He hesitated. "Ma'am, all transactions were handled through your family representative." I hit record on my phone under the counter. "And who would that be?" He sighed, typing something. "Evelyn Cole. She provided a signed transfer copy and confirmed ownership authorization." I forced a smile. "So she sold my car and pocketed the money?" He glanced away. "Look, I just follow what the paperwork says." I leaned in, voice sharp. "You might want to double-check those forms. Because forgery? That's not covered under paperwork." By the time I walked out, my pulse was pounding so loud I barely heard Tyler's truck pull up beside me. "You look like you're about to set something on fire," he said, handing me a bottle of water. "Not fire," I muttered. "Just justice." I showed him the recording. "That's proof she handled the deal herself." He nodded, impressed. "Good. Keep everything. Receipts, emails, even texts. Paper trails don't lie." I took his advice seriously. That night I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by folders, letters, and files. The pile of proof grew taller by the hour, but then I found it. A second loan statement buried among the papers. My breath caught as I read the header. Personal loan, co-sign agreement. Borrower, Madison Cole, co-signer, Mark Cole, purpose, Blake Cole, wedding expenses. My hands started to shake. They hadn't just sold my car. They'd used my name again to fund my brother's entire wedding. I sank back in my chair, staring at the paper that turned my own blood into a financial weapon. They hadn't just taken from me. They'd built their happiness on my debt. They came back sunburned and satisfied. The kind of glow that doesn't come from love, just from getting away with something. Blake strutted into the house first, dragging designer luggage that probably cost more than my last 3 paychecks. Lena followed, wearing a floral dress and the kind of tan that only comes from forgetting guilt under the Hawaiian sun. "Look who finally decided to show up," Blake said, grinning. "You should have seen Maui, Mads. First class all the way. Debt-free honeymoon." I smiled tightly. "Yeah, about that debt-free part." Mom appeared from the kitchen, her voice sugar-coated. "Oh, Madison, don't ruin the moment. They just got home." "I won't," I said softly, pulling out the envelope I'd been carrying for days. "But I thought you'd want to see what came while you were gone." I laid the repossession notice on the dining table. Then the loan documents. Then the dealership recording on my phone, playing loud enough for the entire room to hear. Evelyn froze mid-step, her smile cracking. Dad's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the paper. Blake looked from one face to another, his grin fading. "What is this?" he asked. "What it looks like," I said. "Forgery, fraud, theft, all dressed up as family love." Mom's tone turned defensive fast. "We did this because you never give back. We've helped you your entire life, Madison. This was your chance to finally contribute." "Contribute?" I repeated, laughing under my breath. "By funding your son's honeymoon? With my credit?" Evelyn folded her arms, deflecting. "You're overreacting. We planned to fix it once Blake's business stabilized." "Right," I said coldly. "Just like you planned to tell me before selling my car?" Dad finally spoke, voice low and cracked. "Enough. Madison, your mother didn't mean..." I cut him off. "Didn't mean to forge my name on a loan? Or didn't mean to get caught?" He looked at the paper again, guilt heavy in his eyes. "She didn't do it alone." The room went still. "I signed it," he whispered. "She asked me to. Said you'd forgive us once you saw the reason. We didn't want to lose Blake's trust fund over a missed payment." For a moment I couldn't move. Couldn't even breathe. All those years of trying to earn their respect, every extra shift, every sacrifice, and this was how they saw me. A name to sign away when things got tough. I looked at both of them, calm now, too calm. "You didn't just take my car," I said quietly. "You took my name." And for the first time in my life, they didn't have anything to say. "Justice doesn't need a family discount," that's what the lawyer said, leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled like he'd seen this story too many times before. I sat across from him, clutching the folder of documents that had already cost me sleep, peace, and whatever faith I had left in my family. Tyler sat beside me, silent, steady. The kind of presence that made the room feel less like judgment and more like clarity. "Ms. Cole," the lawyer began, flipping through the papers, "you have every legal right to press charges for identity fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation. The evidence is solid." He looked up, his tone softening. "But if you do this, it won't just be a court case. It'll destroy your parents' credit, possibly their home. It'll go public." I exhaled slowly. "So I either keep paying for their crimes or ruin them completely?" "That's the truth of it," he said simply. "Justice doesn't negotiate family rates." Tyler leaned forward. "What about restitution? Can she get her money back without pressing charges?" "Unlikely," the lawyer said. "Her parents signed binding documents. Unless you prove intent to defraud, the system sees it as a consensual family transfer. You'll need to show malicious intent, that they used her identity knowingly for gain." He turned to me. "Do you want revenge, Madison, or repair?" The room went quiet. I wanted both. I wanted the sting of fairness, the clean line between right and wrong, but I also wanted the part of me that still hoped for family to stop hurting. "I don't know yet," I said finally, "but I can't just let them keep walking over me." Tyler nodded slowly. "Then start walking over their lies." The lawyer smiled faintly. "Well put." He tapped his pen on one of the forms. "There's one more thing. You should see this." He flipped to a document I hadn't noticed before. A mortgage agreement from 6 years ago. "I found this while verifying your credit history. It's unusual." He turned the paper toward me. My name sat neatly beside my father's. The signature looped familiar, but it wasn't mine. My heart sank. "What is this?" "Your father used your social security number to co-sign the mortgage," he said carefully. "You've technically been a partial homeowner since 2018 without your knowledge." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Tyler's jaw tightened. "They didn't just use your name, Mads. They built their house on it." I looked at the paper again, my fake signature under a home I'd never lived in. It wasn't a house anymore. It was evidence. Turns out the house I grew up in was built on my credit. I stared at the screen as Grace's accountant friend scrolled through my family's loan history, each document more unbelievable than the last. "You're saying," I began slowly, "they refinanced the house. Under my name?" He nodded, adjusting his glasses. 5 years ago, your mother handled the paperwork. Your father was listed as primary occupant, but the financial guarantor, the credit anchor, is you. They've been making payments under your score ever since." I felt my pulse thudding in my ears. "That's illegal, right?" "Technically," he said, "it's identity misuse. But since you're their daughter, the law calls it a domestic financial agreement, unless you press charges." Grace looked at me with quiet sympathy. "You didn't even know, did you?" I shook my head. "No. I just thought their mortgage magically survived Dad's layoffs." The accountant cleared his throat. "Actually, it didn't. He defaulted once 2 years ago. Someone paid off the missed amount in full." My eyes snapped to him. "Who?" He glanced at the file. Account transfer from Cole Madison Savings. For a moment, the room tilted. I'd done it. I'd unknowingly bailed them out. I remembered that mysterious account deduction from my bank years ago, the one Dad brushed off as a banking error. I'd never questioned it. Grace reached across the table. "You've got to stop them before they ruin you completely." Her words hit like truth wrapped in mercy. Tyler's voice broke the silence. "Mads, listen to me. They've used your name for years. Credit cards, cars, and now the house. If you don't draw the line legally, they'll keep going." I rubbed my temples. "So I just file charges and destroy what's left of my family?" He met my eyes. "They already destroyed it. You're just cleaning up the wreckage." I looked down at the document again. The one showing my fake signature etched into the home I'd once painted as a teenager. The walls I fixed, the memories I thought were ours, they were all debt. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the apartment sounded like old ghosts asking for forgiveness I didn't owe. My phone buzzed just after midnight. "Blake." I hesitated, then answered. His voice was shaky, rushed. "Madison, you need to stop this. Mom's panicking. Dad says the bank called. Please, don't go to court." I stayed quiet, letting his words hang there. For once, it felt good to hear them panic. But even as I hung up, I knew this wasn't over. Forgiveness has conditions. Mine started with honesty. I showed up at their house on a quiet Sunday afternoon, the same driveway where my old car once sat, now spotless, like it had never belonged to me. Mom was watering her roses, pretending everything was normal. Dad sat on the porch steps, reading a newspaper he probably couldn't even focus on. "Madison," Mom said, her voice tight. "You didn't call." "We could have explained," I interrupted. "Yeah, that's why I'm here." Dad looked up, his expression already tired. "We know you're upset, but dragging this into court won't fix anything." "Neither did stealing my credit," I said flatly. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the birds seemed to stop. Mom set down the watering can and turned toward me, her voice trembling but sharp. "We did what we had to do, okay? We had to keep the family's image perfect. After your father's business went under, we couldn't afford to lose the house. Everyone in this town would have known we failed." I stared at her. "So instead you made me fail?" She blinked as if the words had stung. "It wasn't supposed to hurt you. You're strong, independent, and you'd recover." "You destroyed the image," I said quietly, "and forgot the people in it." Dad's shoulders slumped. "We thought we could fix it before you noticed. We didn't mean for it to go this far." I took the folder out of my bag and placed it on the patio table. The refinancing documents, the loan statements, the legal transfer papers the lawyer had prepared. "You're signing these," I said. "The house and the loans go back under your names. Effective immediately." Mom crossed her arms, defiant again. "And if we don't?" "Then I let the courts decide," I said. "And they won't care how perfect the roses look when they take the house." Dad looked between us, panic creeping into his face. "Evelyn, just sign it," he murmured. "We've done enough damage." But she didn't move. Her lips trembled, but her pride stayed frozen. Finally, she whispered, "You'll regret this when we have nothing, Madison. When this family falls apart, it'll be because you turned your back." I met her eyes, steady, unflinching. "No, Mom. It fell apart the moment you sold my trust." For a long second, neither of us spoke. Then she took the pen, her hand shaking as she signed her name. It wasn't just ink on paper. It was a boundary, the first real one I'd ever drawn. Sometimes you have to drive away to find your worth. The sound of the pickup's engine wasn't just mechanical. It was emotional. It was the sound of something that finally belonged to me again. Tyler wiped the grease from his hands as I turned the key, the motor rumbling to life. "Runs better than half the cars that roll in here?" he said with a grin. "That's because this one's built out of spite and second chances," I replied. We'd spent weeks fixing it together. Late nights, bad coffee, cheap takeout, and quiet laughter in between. Somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking about what my family took and started realizing what I was building. By Monday morning, the old corner garage was officially ours. The sign read Cole & Carter Auto Repairs, painted in red and silver across the front. It wasn't flashy, but it was honest. Tyler hung the open sign on the door, then handed me a fresh set of business cards. "Owner," it read under my name. I smiled. Never thought I'd see that title next to my name. He nudged me gently. "You earned it. You fixed what they broke." We didn't talk much about my parents anymore. There wasn't much left to say. After signing the loan transfer, Mom and Dad lost the house within a month. No press, no public drama, just quiet foreclosure. The same silence they'd once used against me had come back for them. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even drive by. Blake texted once during the move-out week. Just one line. "You really left us stranded." I stared at the message for a long time. It was meant to sting, but it didn't. For once, I didn't feel guilty for saying no. I typed back, "That's what happens when you sell someone's ride." I hit send and tossed the phone aside. The pickup gleamed under the morning sun outside the garage. My reflection stared back in the windshield, tired but proud. I slid behind the wheel and let the engine hum fill the air. Tyler leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, smiling like he already knew what I was thinking. "Where to first, boss?" he called out. "Anywhere that isn't behind me," I said. Then I drove, windows down, wind in my hair, past the old streets that once felt like chains. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't payback, it's peace. Some roads you drive to escape, others to arrive. 6 months later, the garage no longer smelled like struggle. It smelled like success. The new sign above the bay doors read Cole Automotive Integrity. I liked the word integrity. It reminded me of everything I'd lost, and everything I refused to lose again. Business was steady. Locals came in for oil changes, brake jobs, engine rebuilds, and left talking about the girl who rebuilt her own road. Tyler was beside me every day, half grease and half grin, the kind of partner who believed in second chances more than perfect timing. One afternoon, the bell above the door rang. I wiped my hands on a rag and looked up and froze. Mom stood there. Same posture, same pearls, same carefully composed face. But her eyes were different, tired in a way I'd never seen before. "Madison," she said quietly, "I need a ride to the city." My car broke down. For a long moment, I just stared at her. The irony was almost cinematic. She looked around at the shop, at the framed photo of Dad on the wall, at the owner Madison Cole plaque by the register. Her voice cracked a little. "You've done well for yourself." "Yeah," I said evenly. "Did it without selling anyone's car this time?" She flinched. "I didn't come for that." "I know," I said, reaching under the counter. Her expression softened, like she thought I was grabbing my keys. But instead I set a folded bus schedule on the counter. "The express leaves in 20 minutes. You'll make it if you hurry." She blinked, confused. "You won't give me a ride?" I shook my head. "I fix cars, Mom, not relationships that won't move forward." She opened her mouth, maybe to apologize, or maybe to defend herself again. But I didn't wait to find out. I turned back to the open garage door, sunlight spilling over the hood of my rebuilt pickup. As I climbed in, the gold watch from my father's old toolbox caught the light. The engraving on the back glimmered softly. "Keep driving your own road." I smiled, started the engine, and pulled onto the highway. They sold my car to fund someone else's dream, but I rebuilt mine, piece by piece. And this time, nobody was ever taking the keys again. If you've ever been underestimated, subscribe. Your story deserves to be told.